everybody, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I am one of the owners of Run Try Bike and want to thank you for joining us for our 20th episode of our Fireside Chat. Today we're going to be talking with Lauren Beihoffer, who is at Lauren_runs_wild, who is an endurance athlete, ultra runner, and also a coach. But before we get them invited into the conversation, let me give you a little bit information about who we're working with and what we're doing. So a couple of events that we're partnered with: the Monarch Triathlon taking place on October 22nd, 2022 in Kingman, Arizona, a unique all-female point-to-point race. Check it out, great for beginners, and also has relay teams. Boise Running will be hosting Idaho Running Day on September 17th in Boise, Idaho, 5K through marathon. Flat and fast course, which will also have the ability for those of you who are interested to qualify for Boston because it's certified. Race Chingona, which is an event taking place in San Antonio, Texas on November 19th, an all-female supported bike ride, 10, 20, 40, and 65-mile rides. And then lastly, we want to promote our hats. We're working with the nonprofit group Fund Her Try to send 2 women to their first triathlon. And you can easily buy the hats online at our shop, or click right there on the bottom of your screen to purchase after we have our conversation with Lauren. And I'm going to get her going on the conversation right now. Looking forward to chatting with her and just all the amazing things that she does and has done in the world of endurance sports and coaching. Also joining us right now is Om Gandhi, who is one of our co-owners and our social media manager, as well as our moderator for today. So if you have questions for Lauren, click on the bottom right. There's a little question mark, put it in there, and Om will be able to ask Lauren that question. And without further ado, Lauren, thank you for joining us in this conversation.
Hi. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Love the purple hair, you know, unique, fantastic. So tell our audience who may not be familiar with you, who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, so okay, I'm Lauren, and I'm on Instagram as Lauren Runs Wild, because that's basically what I do. I have been ultra running now for, like 6 or 7, maybe more years. Yeah, so it's kind of my thing. I run wild. Recently, in the last few years, I've been doing some coaching and really kind of ramped it up here in the last year. Love coaching other women, especially for endurance pursuits. And so, yeah, I got 3 kids I try to wrangle during the day, and when I'm not wrangling them, you can find me in the mountains running. And I actually just signed up for my first adventure race because apparently ultra, plain ultra running wasn't enough for me, enough suffering. So I'm going a little bit further. So yeah,
we're going to talk about that in a second, because I saw you post about that.
Yeah.
I did scroll back through your Instagram account, and you raced Bigfoot 200, correct?
I did, and it was so funny because this was before I knew Om, but you were there too, right? Yeah, so 2021 was when I dipped my toe into the Bigfoot, and yeah, man, that was the year we started, and it was like 100 degrees outside, like ridiculous. Like, I live in the South, if you can't tell from, my accent. I always tell people, you think I have an accent? And so I'm like, I don't hear it. I'm used to the hot, humid weather. And so when I initially signed up for that race, I thought it was going to be fantastic. Pacific Northwest in the mountains, it'll be slightly cooler. And it was so hot. They were having forest fires out there. It was like ridiculous. And I was like, man. So anyways, yeah, 2021, Bigfoot 200, fantastic experience. I did not cross the finish line on that one, but I had a wonderful time trying. Yeah, it was so cool. Such a neat experience. So
thank you very much for expressing the enjoyment and the experience you had, even though you DNF'd.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important for people to understand, right? It stings and hurts in the moment. We get it. But it's also a building block for success. It also allows you to learn, just what you can do and then push yourself just a little bit further. And so from a self-promotion standpoint, for those of you who are joining us, we are going to be launching a new category on our site called My DNF Story. And so we want people to talk about these things because they do happen, regardless of whether you're elite or you're a back of the packer. DNFs happen. Beat yourself up for a second, but more importantly, learn from that. So that's our self-promotion for a moment. But anyway, awesome. Your Instagram account, I think it's your last post, and you started to talk about this, is a 48-hour endurance event that you're going to be doing. Fill us in. Right. It sounds amazing.
So I actually, for years now, have wanted to do an adventure race. So before I was an ultra runner, I was an outdoor woman. I love to kayak, cave. I did a lot of caving, a lot of backpacking, hiking, kayaking, all the things. And so since I started ultra running, there's less time for that kind of stuff. I love to rock climb. So an adventure race company I follow announced that they were doing a new race in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is my hometown, that involves, trekking, running, canoeing, climbing, caving, like all the things I love. And so I thought, how could I pass this up? I've always wanted to do an adventure race, and it's in my backyard. I know this place. So I signed up. Of course, that's what you do. You just don't even think about it. Signing up. And that's what I did. And so I am so excited to train, to get to do the things I love outside of just running. And it's an endurance event. It's 48 hours to get from point A to point B, doing all the things. I am probably not prepared at this moment in time. I've got, till next June, but I'll get there. And I'm super excited. Yeah, can't wait.
So I've raced at Ironman Chattanooga. I 2014 and 2017, I believe. Okay. And I love the city, love that area. The swim, the bike, and the run in that area is phenomenal. What they don't tell you at Ironman, and for those of you who are racing Ironman Chattanooga, is that run is a lot hillier than that course map indicates. It's brutal. But speaking of endurance events, we were just contacted by an endurance company out in Port Angeles, Washington, and their endurance event, because you were speaking about the P&W just a second, is it's a four-leg event where you kayak, mountain bike, road bike, and then run. And hearing the events that you're going to be taking place in it excites me, because endurance sports, and that's what we are endurance athletes, right? Encompassing a whole bunch of different things. So it's awesome to see different events taking place with different components to it. But for you as a coach, now how does that work for you as a coach when somebody calls up and says, well, I'm going to be doing this quadrathlon, which includes kayaking, mountain biking, road cycling, and then also running? How do you work with athletes in that scenario now?
I think it's great, because usually when people come to me and they want to run some big race, they're like, but I love to bike and I love to do this, and can I still do this? And I'm like, of course, we can work it into your training. So being able to actually need to do those things in training, I think actually makes it easier for people, because typically it's things they love. And it's I think avoids the burnout, because you're kind of doing the different things. Training for an ultra, I love it. That's why I keep doing it. And it's great, but you're running. It's just running, you may be doing some other things, but primary focus is running. So I love being able to incorporate on purpose all the things, all the different, the biking, the running, the swimming, kayaking, whatever it is. I actually think it makes it more fun and makes it more, prone to avoid burnout, I guess. So I love it.
Yeah, and I'm a coach too, and I also have ultra runners as coaches. I had an athlete who just finished Leadville last weekend, and we incorporate cycling, we incorporate swimming, strength training as well, because the one thing about ultra running, and I'm going to ask you if you agree with this, is in comparison to road running, right? It's over multiple planes, right? It's vertical, it's lateral, and it's horizontal, and so you have to have all of those tiny muscles from your ankles all the way up to your shoulders trained and strength trained and properly ready to go for, especially for you guys doing 200 milers. You incorporate all of that. So would you agree with that assessment that ultra trail running is, multiple plane training?
Definitely, definitely. I am such a huge proponent of strength training. I think, especially for ultra running in general, I mean, you need the strength. Yes, you need the endurance. Yes, you obviously need to run a lot in training. But I too think that the strength training is such an important component. And most people as runners, when they first start out, they often don't, unless they were already weightlifting or doing, strength training, they don't think about adding it in. They don't think it's as important, or they think, oh, I don't have time for it. And so I really think just for better performance, but also just better feeling, like the effects of being strong in your everyday life, regardless of how much you're training, is so important. But like you said, moving in all the planes of direction, avoiding those sprained ankles on the trail.
Yep.
I mean, if you're carrying loaded packs, for Bigfoot 200, oh my gosh, like my pack is like I was backpacking. I'm like, you've got poles, you're working your arm muscles. It's so important that you have overall strength in addition to just being able to run really far. And so that is something huge in my coaching. Most people that come to me, they can run a lot, but they don't know, like, okay, what do I do for strength training? Why do I have to do this, or what do I do? And so I do think it's so important and so overlooked. So yeah, huge fan of strength training for sure.
So overlooked. One of the things I tell athletes when they start working with me, because they are always saying, I want to get faster, I want to get faster. And I always tell them the stronger runner is going to be the faster runner, because we're all going to break down along the way. Mm-hmm. But if you break down less than the other person, you're going to be faster than them, right? And it's all relative. So, we always talk about that with conversations. And then your athletes come to you through Misfit Mountain Athletics, correct? That's your training, mm-hmm. your coaching company?
It is. And so I went with Misfit because I've always felt, so I never even ran until I was already in my mid-30s and like 3 kids in deep into life. Like if you had told high school Lauren, who tried anything to get out of like running the mile for PE, that she'd someday be like running 200 miles in the mountains of Washington, she would have just laughed, hysterically until she passed out. So, I feel, I was not an athlete. I didn't even really play sports. I was one of those people, you ask if I run, I'd be like, only if something's chasing me, and I just, got bitten by the bug later on. I always felt like, anyone can do this. Like if you want it, people say all the time, like, oh, I could never do that. Or, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, no, it's not. You just have to like love it. Once you fall in love with it, you find the way. And so I feel like I made it into the endurance world in kind of a different way. At least I thought so in the beginning, although I'm meeting a lot of other people who kind of, dip their toe into the endurance world later in life. And we're like, this is great. But yeah, I was all in. And so I think that's really kind of the point of like, it's okay to be a misfit. Like other people don't have to understand it. People are like, oh, there's that crazy woman who runs around her neighborhood every morning. What is she doing? You just, if you love it, you love it. And it doesn't matter if it fits into society's, view of what you should be doing in your 40s. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's I'm Misfit Mountain Athletics. And, I coach people from someone who's never worked out a day in their life to people who've already run 100 milers, but want to get stronger and fitter and healthier and learn the nutrition side and learn the strength training side and try some different approaches to endurance training.
That's awesome. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I'm one of the co-owners of Run, Try, Bike. We're being joined by Om Gandhi, who is also one of the co-owners and our moderator today. We're talking to Lauren, and please forgive me because I have a last name that's difficult to pronounce too. Beihoffer?
Ding, ding, ding. That's it.
You've got questions for Lauren, just click the little question mark on the bottom right-hand corner and ask away, and Om will get them over to Lauren. And also, you guys will see Om and I are wearing our Run, Try, Bike trucker hats. It's pinned there. You can purchase one. They will help send 2 women to their first triathlons through our partnership with Fund Her Tri, which is, again, they're going to send women there. So that brings me back to you, Lauren, and talks of working with women. If I'm not mistaken, that is all, you only work with women 100%. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually do have a female clients, but most are women. I find that, I specifically being a woman in my 40s, when I hit 40, I had been ultra running for several years, and it's like everything changed. Like hormones changed, body changed, and I really had to redo my whole approach for myself. And I was like, dang, this is like, I can't be the only one, right? And it turns out that, like, nope, there's this whole, genre of women who are over 40 in the endurance world. And they're like, well, what do I do now? My body's changing. My hormones are changing. And, like, training is different now. Nutrition's different. Everything's different. What do I do? And so, I really kind of buckled down into the science and what does the science say and what's going on, with me biochemically. I'm a biochemist, trained as a biochemist. And so I just, in my own search for answers, realized like, wow, none of the normal training you see is really geared for women who are approaching menopause and having shifting hormones. It's, there's the emphasis is different, a lot of the research, a lot of the training methods are for like a 20-year-old dude who's doing, hard things, and it's just not the same, and so I really kind of fell in love with this little niche of how can I, as a woman over 40, in this part of my life, be the best endurance athlete that I can be. And it turns out that things are different and you do have to kind of change your approach a little bit. And so I just love everything about coaching women over 40 because I'm there, I get it. And there's just so much as women that we don't know about our own bodies because the research really is focused for young male athletes. And so that's shifting. It's shifting. There's new stuff coming out. There's new female scientists in sports nutrition and all of that, kind of leading the way. And I'm just trying to get that information out to other women. Like, no, you don't have to feel like crap. You can keep doing these endurance events. You might just need to shift some of your methods. And so that's kind of where I like to specialize.
Yeah, and for a person like myself, I'll be 49 at the end of this year, which means I'll be turning 50 next year. And a lot of the stuff that I read today doesn't pertain to me either. So I can't imagine how it would translate to women. And I know from 15 years ago when I started these sports, right, it was almost always on the go, right? Go run, go swim, go bike. Now it's let me go to the gym and strength train. Let me go, let me sleep in tonight or today and nap. And recovery is so much more important than I ever thought it would be, right? So those are points of focus for you with the people that you're coaching.
Absolutely. For women over 40, the strength training, the muscle component, and the recovery and the nutrition, so important. You may be able to get away when you're younger and your body is a little bit more resilient. It's easier to build muscle. Your hormones are, a little different. You can slide by with kind of skipping things and just, getting away with your training plan not being kind of optimal. But I think what a lot of women realize, and probably men too, like as you get older, things change. We lose bone mass. We lose muscle mass naturally. We need more recovery time. We need better nutrition to avoid, this whole cascade of bad hormones trickling down and making things worse. So yeah, everything kind of changes, and that information is just not widespread. And so, people are training and then they're aging and they're like, what's happening? And so if you can kind of get to that sweet spot and figure out, well, how do I work with my body? Then it's great. I feel like now I'm the strongest athlete I've ever been. It took some time to get back here. But I feel great. And it's like, I want other women to feel great too. And so that's really what kind of drove me to specialize in women over 40.
And so that leads me to my next question, which is you have a hashtag that you use consistently, which is hashtag #FitOver40.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you? And how do you relay that message to the athletes that you're coaching?
It's funny because if you look at how society has changed their views of women over time, aging women over time. I think back to the Golden Girls, and they're like my age, like in their 40s, late 40s, early 50s. And like we just always viewed women over 40 like as so old, like your life is over, you don't go to the gym anymore, you don't ride a bike, you don't run. And so a shift, right? There's a shift in society now. And so I feel like, you know, that still permeates. And I think women sometimes think, well, I'm over 40. I've got, you know, these kids and I'm going through menopause. Like, it's not a good time to become an athlete or start working out. Like, that ship has sailed. And you shouldn't feel that way. Like, no one should feel that way. Like, it's the perfect time to start, you know, or to jump back in. Like, it's great. Like, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. You can absolutely become an athlete if you want to over the age of 40. You can be fit, you can be strong, you can be whoever you want to be. And so I think that is a newer kind of shift in our mind, in society's mind, of women over 40. And it's like, yeah, you can be fit over 50, fit over 60, fit over, you know, I want to be 99 years old and still running mountains. I might be really slow, but I'm gonna be out there, you know.
It's all relative. Slow is all relative. You know, and I think that's one of the things that I love about our sports too, is that, you know, we get inspired when we see folks that are in their 60s, 70s, even into their 80s, right? And it's inspiring to see, and it allows us to change our mindset and hopefully the message that goes out, because you're doing a great job in getting that message out. And then there's Feisty Media on the triathlon side, you know, and they do a phenomenal job in getting information out for women, especially when they're talking about menopause or their menstrual cycle and how to train through it and work through it. I had a conversation with a PT here on one of our Fireside Chats who works predominantly with women coming who are just delivered their child, not for. And it was so awkward for me because I didn't know what I was talking about, right? So I was like, here's the floor, you get to talk. But it was great to get that information out and let people hear about it, because there isn't a lot of it out there. And I think it's important that we as a media company help people like you amplify your voice and get that word out there, because you never know who you're going to touch along the way.
Yeah, so true. And the Feisty Media, I love that. I listen to their podcast, love it.
Yeah.
It is such great information. Yeah, love it.
Great information. I started listening to them when they had the original podcast, If We Were Riding. Kelly O'Mara was one of the hosts, and it just always made me laugh. Even though it was all women focused, like, it made me laugh and made me realize that even as an underrepresented athlete, as a Puerto Rican, right, because women are underrepresented in our sports too, right, we have similar stories. And it just made me laugh, and I just enjoyed it, and I enjoy listening to their conversations now. For those of you who are just joining us, thank you very much. This is our regularly scheduled Tuesday Fireside Chat. My name is Jason Bahamani. I'm one of the owners of Run, Try, Bike, joined by Om Gandhi, who is our moderator, who is also a co-owner, and Lauren Beihoffer, who is Lauren Runs Wild. And we're talking about women, coaching women, training women, being over 40. So if you have questions, just click the little question mark on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and ask away, and we'll make sure we get it to Lauren to answer that question for you. If you've missed any part of this, don't worry about it. It'll be on our Instagram feed once the conversation is over, as well as on YouTube and our channel on our website later in the week. There's a question from the audience.
Yeah, before I ask the question from the audience, we also have Tennessee native Kevin Scott in the comments. He was saying, yeah, Tennessee earlier. So I got a question here from Slime Dog. Any advice regarding salt intake leading up to and during an ultra?
Such a good question. Yeah, so I will preface this by saying salt intake is so individualized. As someone who doesn't need as much salt and had to learn that through very hard effort, lots of mishaps, it's something you really need to practice beforehand. So I'm going to, practice. What does your body need? If you're going to be running somewhere that's very hot and humid, I like to tell my athletes to definitely incorporate extra electrolytes when they're carb loading leading up to the event day and the morning of. That is where the practice and knowing your body comes in. Depending on how much electrolytes you lose, it could be as little as 300 milligrams up to 500 milligrams or more. You know, that really can vary person to person based on your biochemistry. But if it's going to be a hot, humid race, you're going to be sweating a lot, losing a lot of electrolytes. If you are a heavy sweater who, you know, you have the salt all over you after you sweat, you're probably on the higher end. Yeah. And I'm like the opposite. And for the longest time, I would force down electrolytes and then I'd be on the side of the trail. Like, why am I sick to my stomach? I can't figure it out. You know, so yeah, that is something you have to practice. But once you find your sweet spot for how much electrolytes you need per hour, and it's going to be a hot race, I definitely tell people to don't go crazy the day before, the morning of, but definitely bump up your electrolytes. Even if that is eating some saltier foods, adding a little bit more salt to your food, that works as well. But for the event itself, you really want to have practiced and know, you know, what you need. You can do a sweat test so you know how much just overall liquid you're losing through sweat per hour. And then that's where you'll have to practice with electrolytes. I know for myself, you know, sometimes I will do the salt tabs where it's like a pill you swallow or a chewable. Sometimes I'll do electrolyte drinks. It really just kind of depends on how hot it is. But in general, you know, like 300 to 500 is somewhere you could start. Probably need more than that if you're a larger person. It's hotter. So practice, practice, practice. Once you find your sweet spot, yes, load up a little bit on electrolytes, kind of when you're carb loading, like the day before, especially the morning of. And get on your schedule, learn your body, practice. I make all my athletes practice dress rehearsal for your nutrition and your electrolytes, the most important part.
Absolutely. Smart idea. For those of you who don't know what a sweat test is, you can go to our website, runtrimag.com, and go to the run section. There's an article written by Holly Sick about what is a sweat test, and it will give you all the information you need about how to conduct one and then how to read the data once you have the information. The reason why I showed my bald head was your buddy Bud LaMonica said,
yeah, my partner in crime there.
You have to have cool hair to run ultras, and the answer is clearly not. You can be bald like me. It's quite all right. One of the things as I was going through your Instagram feed that I loved, and I want you to talk about this because I think it's very powerful, is you said 2022 is going to be the year of yes. So what does that mean to you and why is it so important?
Oh man, 2022 has been wild for me, but in the best of ways. And I decided, so in the past, I had coached a lot of athletes and had great success, and I kind of backed off for a couple of years. I was doing the mom thing and doing some other things. And at the end of 2021, I decided that it was, you know, here I am, 41 years old. It was time to decide, okay, Lauren, like, let's get your life together. Not that I was all over the place and didn't know what I was doing, but I really felt this call to kind of once and for all pursue what I really wanted to do, which was get back into coaching kind of full time and kind of specialize in women over 40 and bring all of my knowledge that I could to that population of women. But it also was in my personal life, just saying yes to opportunities that before I probably would have said no to because fear, doubt, I'm a mom, what will people think? I don't have time, that's too scary, that's too risky. And I'm really bad about doing that, but we're humans, we kind of have to do that, especially when you got other human beings that depend on you. And so I had done a lot of that. And you know, the pandemic, of course, was a crazy time for everyone where we all had to reel back in. And so I was coming off this time period where I had set aside goals and ambitions and said, not now, not now, let me get my life in order. So the end of 2021, I kind of made this promise to myself that 2022 was going to be the year of yes. I am going to get back to coaching and I'm going to launch my business again. I'm going to say yes to any opportunities that come my way. I didn't know what kind of opportunities were coming, and they were crazy ones that I would love to talk about at another time. But they involved like some big adventures, some big scary stuff personally, and it was fantastic. I've had so many just cool opportunities pop up this year, and I have just been open to all of them. You know, if it's something that aligns with my values, my passions, and my goals, I have just said yes. And I am finding that by doing that, new opportunities have opened up that beyond what I could have ever expected. And yeah, 2022 has just been awesome. It's just the year of yes for me.
Yeah, be our own limiters at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scared of participating in something. What if it doesn't go right? As opposed to what if it does go right? We're coming up on the end of the 8th month of 2022. Everything you've said yes to so far has been what you expected it to be. Has there been some missteps along the way as well?
Yeah, I mean, not everything goes perfectly. And I think just knowing that, like, well, I showed up, I gave it my best, I said yes, and I'm content with, maybe it was a bust, maybe it didn't work out the way I wanted, but I'm content in knowing, like, I showed up. I didn't chicken out. I didn't say I'll save it for later. I didn't say, oh, that's not rational. There's no time for that. And so I'm really happy with everything I've said yes to, whether it's worked out for the best or not, has been great. And now somehow I'm signed up for this adventure race. So I guess who knows what's going to happen. I still got some months left of 2022.
But that's one of the things that we believe is that failure is the building block of success. And so I kind of set you up to answer that question in that way, because not everything goes according to plan. And sometimes you have a misstep. Sometimes you DNF. And you've got to then build on that for future success, which leads me to my next question about mental toughness, because that's also a common theme through your Instagram profile and on your coaching page. And so what does the word mental toughness mean to you? Because you had a really poignant post, a few months back that I read that really hit home. But what does it mean to you, and why that perspective?
So, mental toughness is an interesting one because it's something that gets thrown around a lot in endurance sports in the ultra world. And there is a part that's just the pure grit of it, like showing up, pushing yourself as hard as you can, going to those dark places physically and mentally, and coming out the other side, pushing past what you thought you could do. But I also think there's another side of mental toughness where you reach a point where you realize that your adaptability and your own kind of vision of the current situation involves mental toughness. So, I think like what I'd written about, being able to rise above your circumstances that are going on around you and choosing your mindset, that is a form of mental toughness, being able to feel confident in yourself, to know yourself, and to just decide that no matter what is happening around me, this is what I'm going to do and this is who I am. That's a level of mental toughness that is hard to achieve. And I think it's taken me a long time to get there. And I think it's more than just the pure grit and the pushing through for the sake of pushing through. I think there's just a whole nother level to it, about just being able to adapt, being able to be resilient. I think it's just so multifaceted that, the grit thing is cool, but we all have hardships that we have to get through in life, like we all probably, by the time you're like in your 40s and you're running ultra, like, yeah, we've been through hard shit. Like I know what that's like. But there's this whole other thing where, if you can truly find joy in the suffering, well, that's kind of a level of mental toughness that rises above just the grit. And I think to get there is so important. And it takes a long time. And yeah, it's just kind of a shift in your mindset that you have to get to. It's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like this mindfulness shift in your brain that you're able to mentally, control where you are mentally, no matter what you're going through physically, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, all the sense in the world. And I know the three of us have been there, but I'll tell a story. When I was racing Cocodona, I was 50 miles from the finish line. And I had just woken up, and like the last thing I wanted to do was forget about 50 miles of steps. I didn't want to take another step. And I said that to my crew chief. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm just done. Like, mentally, I was done. And she just looked me in the eye and she said, you will do this, you will get it done, and you will take one step at a time until you're at the finish line. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. And that part of the mental toughness, which was the end of that statement, which was, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Because in my own head, I was like, well, you know, it's 50 miles. I can run this typically in 9 hours, but I can barely move right now. So it might take me 3 more days. And I don't want to do this for 3 more days. But it was just that one statement. And so now when I have hard things come up, I think about what she said in that moment. You will do this no matter how long it takes. And so as Omen, Angela and I are building this business, we're going to be successful no matter how long it takes. When we're coaching athletes like you're coaching athletes, you will get this no matter how long it takes. And I think when you change the time frame on things, it really changes a person's mindset. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. You know, and that's what I kind of try to build into my clients, not just like, oh, you got to be tough, you got to suck it up. You know, it really is framing your mind for success. You know, like I tell my clients kind of all the struggles I go through with, because I think another part of that is vulnerability. Like, being vulnerable with people is a form of mental toughness, because that's hard to do. But yeah, I really, you know, I tell people, I just told Bud today, like, I wake up every morning and I have to force myself to say, today I will be successful, because that's the only option I'm going to give myself. I don't know what's going to happen, but that is, you know, that's what I'm going to look in the mirror. Am I who I want to be today? And what I'm doing aligning with my vision and goals, you know, then it doesn't matter, like you said, how long it takes. Who knows, you know, to get where I want to be. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to do everything I can to get there, no matter how long it takes. And so, yeah, I think that's a perfect example of that mental toughness. It's just knowing, like, I'm going to do this thing no matter what the outside circumstances are.
I think you hit the nail on the head too. And A Touch of Speed commented here and says, yes, transparency, and it's vulnerability. And, you know, that's one of the things that Om and I were talking about earlier today, is the stories that we want to bring to our audience is the everyday athlete story, the vulnerability, the hurt and the pain, and the alarm going off at 3:30 and you throwing it across the room because you're like, not today, right? Mm-hmm. I mentioned it earlier. We're going to start a My DNF story category on our page, because we've all been there. We all have gone through that. And it's important for every athlete who's either getting started with this or has just suffered through a DNF to know that they're not alone, even if it's their first and they've been doing it for X number of years. One of the things I do with my athletes too is, like, you need to still set aside time for family and friends and work and all of these other things, because I went through burnout. Like, I raced so much, and then I finally stopped racing Ironman for about a year and a half because I just was not interested in it anymore. And I focused so much on data, heart rate, powers, like all these things that really didn't matter. And so when I tell them, like, guys and ladies, you know, set aside time for those things as well. I'll work my training plan around yours. And as a matter of fact, for the guy who just raced Leadville, one of his days of training was get a beer, go to the pool, and walk around for 15 minutes. It'll help your recovery. It'll absolutely help your recovery, right? Press the reset button, just change about everything, you know? And that brings me to my next question, which is, you talk about the basics and keeping it simple, you know? What does that mean for training, nutrition, mindset? How does that work?
And I see this a lot in nutrition as well. And everybody wants the next big thing. Everybody wants the current fad. Everybody wants, just give me something to make me fast, to make me strong, to make me perform my best. And, you know, that's fine and great. Maybe some of those things are helpful. But if you don't have a good foundation, you are never going to, you know, reach your full potential. And so I like to tell everybody, I don't care if, like, you're just starting out or you've been running 100-milers for 6 or 7 years. If you don't have the good foundation, I don't care what supplement says. I don't care what that new program says. If you don't have a solid foundation of true fitness, health, stress management, sleep management, nutrition, all of that. If you don't have a solid foundation of that, nothing else matters, you know? It really doesn't. In the long term, for your overall wellness, for your overall performance, you've got to have the basics covered. And it's so huge. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I've been doing this for a year. I'm an athlete. Doesn't matter. Eventually, you're going to get burned out. You're going to get hurt. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have something happen if you're neglecting your foundation, your basics. So for me, it's so important because this comes from experience. I'm not just like preaching that to people. That was me. I was trying to get around the basics. Like, oh, I can, you know, I can outrun it. Doesn't matter. Just take a supplement. It is so not true, okay? Especially as you age. I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe if you're in your 20s, you can get away with it, okay? But when you're, you know, older, yeah, things change. And, you know, you've got to go back to that foundation of basic fitness, basic strength, basic nutrition, basic wellness, stress management, sleep, recovery. All of those things are so huge and they get so neglected. And, you know, what I tell people, you know, supplements are fine if you want to take them, but take the money first and buy the quality food, okay? Learn how to cook the quality food, learn how to eat the quality food, to buy the quality food. Then we can worry about the other stuff, because the other stuff, it's minor, smaller returns. Let's think about the big rocks, right, so to speak, in our, you know, overall wellness plan. Once you get those in order, okay, then we can look at whatever it is you want to look at.
100%.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to see people neglecting the basics or looking for those quick fixes to their problems when really all you need to do is, you know, strength train, eat right, sleep some, you know. So I just, you know, make sure those are met first. And that's a big, big push. My clients all know that I try not to lecture them, but I will have this big, you know, biochemical thing. I posted something yesterday in my private running group, and I'm like, okay, so here's what happens if you start skipping meals and you're training for an ultra, and it's all these hormones and biochemical pathways, you know. Long story short, don't neglect the basics, because that's your foundation.
Man, what I don't understand is, as an athlete, like when I'm done running 3, 4, 5 hours, all I want to do is eat. Like I'm so gassed up for that burrito and those tacos, and then maybe a little ice cream later on, and then a donut after that, and then a loaf of bread. Like the idea that I wouldn't eat after running for 3, 4, 5 hours is beyond me. It is beyond me.
And, you know, there is, you know, in the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, intermittent fasting, and I have nothing against intermittent fasting, but it is a big trend. But the problem is, especially with women over 40 who are trying to balance fasting with endurance training, it can be disastrous for your hormones. And so some people may be able to handle it, but there's a lot of women who can't. And, you know, they're just, it puts them in a place, it makes it challenging to fuel properly. Some people can get it figured out, and that's great. I mean, I myself have done intermittent fasting and do from time to time. However, a lot of women easily get into that cycle of being constantly underfueled, and it leads to this whole host of problems that come up, and they're like, what went wrong? And a lot of times it could really go back to just fueling properly. You know, over time, if you're not fueling properly, everything's going to fall apart. Injuries are going to start happening. Illnesses, your immune system, your hormones, everything kind of just goes crazy. And so, you know, if you find yourself in that situation, it's not that you have to give it up. It's just that you got to pay extra attention. Am I fueling properly for what I'm asking my body to do? And that's the big takeaway is, you know, we've got to make sure that your fueling matches what you want out of your body. It's not fair to expect it to perform at a certain level if you're restricting in certain ways. And so it's just, you know, it's just something to be aware of. How can I alter what I'm doing to better serve my body? You know, and then being a female athlete, you know, it is so hard to scroll through social media. You think you have to look a certain way. A lot of clients want to lose weight, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight. But I like to focus on performance first. How do you feel? I want you to feel good. I want you to be strong. I want you to feel, you know, proud. Then we can worry about those other things. And so it's really hard to balance, I think, for a lot of women. There's a lot of pressure to look a certain way if you're an endurance athlete, if you're a runner. That's shifting, but it's still there. You know, it's still in our media. So there's just a lot of layers to being a female athlete. And so, you know, again, start at the basics. We want you to feel good first.
Yeah, and honestly, I will say it's not just the women that are being impacted by social media. Men, I know you are too, and I know we have to be tough and say that it doesn't, but we see it too, and I know personally it has impacted me. So I know firsthand that this stuff does have an impact on men as well. And we, you know, I remember I read when I first started, right, racing weight. Racing weight was a big thing. And
Wow.
I was basically starving myself, for lack of a better phrase, to be at a certain weight to race half Ironman and Ironman distance events. And it's not healthy. It's just not healthy at all. And as I got more into ultra running is when my mind shift with food kind of changed as well. Because in ultra running, look, you see all body types and all different types of endurance events. I get it. But when you look at Ironman, you tend to see the 6'2", 160-pound ripped athlete. And when you see ultra running events, you tend to see the average guy, right? And so I was like, oh, so these guys are also running these 100 milers in 15 hours and they're not 6'2" and 160 pounds and they're perfectly great athletes too. And so that helped me shift my mindset. So guys, it's not just for women, it's for us as well. Make sure you're doing that. Lauren, we're going to wrap this up and we're going to jump into our, what I call rapid fire questions here in a moment. But where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so I'm, you know, obviously Lauren Runs Wild. I keep a Misfit Mountain, you know, athletics Instagram. I have a website as well. It's just Misfit Mountain Athletics. Yeah, so you can find me anywhere. Come find me at Lauren Runs Wild. I try to post all of my journeys there, no matter what I'm training for. So, and helpful information for people.
So as we get into our rapid fire questions, folks, if you do have a question that popped into your head, feel free to tack that little question mark on the bottom right and we'll get it done before it's over. If you missed any part of this conversation, it'll be on our Instagram feed the moment we finish the conversation, but it'll also be on our YouTube channel as well as on our website here by the end of the week. So Lauren, you ready for some fun now?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So when you're running, are you listening to music, podcast, or nothing at all?
All of the above. So a lot of times, weekday mornings when I'm up really early doing like a 5-mile run, I like to listen to either a book or a podcast. When I'm doing long runs and it's like when I dread, I will listen to something, maybe a funny podcast, but nature. Usually I won't, like for a race, I don't listen to anything. And a lot of runs, like when I do trail, I will just listen to the nature. But I like a good book, especially if it's a run I don't really want to do.
Awesome. So you're in Tennessee. So you're right in the middle of Carolina barbecue, Memphis barbecue, St. Louis barbecue, wet rub, dry rub. Controversial answer from you. What type of barbecue are you eating?
Memphis style. I love the Memphis style. Oh man, which reminds me I need to get to Memphis for some good barbecue. Yeah, I'm a Memphis style girl.
So we're big food people here on this, and this is my favorite question because it always elicits a great response. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
I used to love pineapple on pizza, but I feel like I have evolved, and I mean I could still eat it.
That's right.
So don't block me, people, okay? Don't block me. I haven't eaten pineapple on pizza forever, but listen, I could eat a lot of stuff on pizza. It's pizza, okay? So I could probably get really wild with it. But yeah, sure, I could eat some pineapple on pizza.
But remember, you're laughing, but realize that as she got older, she got wiser and didn't eat pineapple.
I haven't actually had pineapple on pizza in like a decade. So.
I'm a New Yorker through and through, and it's one of those things that I'm like, never. Like pizza's 3 things: bread, sauce, cheese. That's it.
Funny.
Like we don't need all that if it's good pizza. Anyway, that's my rant, my soapbox. The other thing, candy corn, gross or not?
My kids love it. My 2 older love it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? They also love the Peeps. Cannot do Peeps. Cannot do candy corn. Can't.
Yes. This is my sister. No pineapple on pizza, hates candy corn, and hates Peeps. We are on a roll. We have had so many people say that they love candy corn, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's candle wax. Why would you eat that?
It's the worst.
Did you see that Rocks, the company that makes that stuff, is coming out with a hot dog flavored candy corn thing? Right.
Why?
The other thing that we've been told about is stale Peeps. Like 7 interviews in a row have said, I don't care for Peeps unless they're stale. And I'm like, so you like to eat doorstops? Like, I don't understand.
Like crunchy on the outside or something? I don't know.
I mean, I'll never eat them, so I don't know. To me, they're just balls. So I don't know. Red velvet cake. Is it really just chocolate cake with red dye, or is it an actually good cake?
Man, I am telling you. Okay, listen. I have one child who loves red velvet. I cannot get over the red. Like, I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate, but the red does something to me psychologically, and it's no longer chocolate. I'm sorry if you love red velvet, but like, it changes it. Like the red, I don't know what it is. It's not the same. I need a real chocolate cake. Yeah.
I totally feel like we just became best friends. That's 4. That is awesome. So you said you listen to books while you're running. Favorite book?
Oh man, that's a hard one. You know, I am reading one right now that I'm falling in love with. It's called Bewilderment. It's by the guy who won the Pulitzer Prize for writing the Overstory about the trees. It's about this scientist who's like loves the cosmos, and he has a special needs kid. And anyways, love it. It's such a great book. I'm listening to it right now on my runs, and I'm just totally infatuated with it.
Very cool. Bewilderment, folks. Mm-hmm. Favorite movie?
Okay, this is kind of weird, but I really like the genre about like prison and prison break movies. So like Shawshank Redemption was like my all-time favorite. Like I love a good like prison and escaping from prison movie. I don't know why.
So, you do climb through 500 yards of filthy
yes. Come out clean on the other side. Yes, I just love a good prison movie, and that is my favorite.
That's awesome. I love that movie too. I could watch that. When it like TBS always ends up having a marathon, and I it constantly. Favorite meal post workout, post race?
Oh man, post race, I will say it can really vary, but I usually only eat this meal after. Oh, that's my kid. He's saying Lifetime movies. They give me a hard time. Lifetime movies. Okay, like when nobody's home, and like it's like my guilty pleasure. They're so bad. Like the acting is so bad, the storylines are so bad, but I love them. I don't know why. And so like when no one's looking, I'm always watching Lifetime movies. It's like my dirty little secret. Okay.
That's awesome.
After a big run, for some reason, I always want like a cheeseburger, French fries, and a milkshake. Like I don't usually eat that in my everyday life, so I guess I don't know. It's just kind of what I go for something.
In the middle of Cocodona, I had my crew go out. I eat a vegetarian vegan diet. So in the middle of Cocodona, I asked them to go to Burger King to get me a couple of Impossible Whoppers because it just like what I needed in the moment.
Yeah, it just sounds good. I don't know, and I'm not usually a burger person, so yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. We've had a great time. We'll have to have you back on and joining us again. Folks, if you missed any part of the conversation, again, it'll be on our Instagram feed here in a moment, but also our YouTube channel as well as our website. Make sure you follow Lauren's Instagram account as well. Great inspiration, funny stuff, and it will get you motivated. And then lastly, please help us support Fund Her Tri and send 2 female triathletes to their first races by purchasing one of our trucker hats. You see Ohm and I have them on. They're great fitting hats, and we'd appreciate the support in getting those 2 ladies to their first triathlon races. Lauren, thank you very much. We look forward to chatting with you again in the future. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.